Welcome to the show. This is called Fantasy Ball. Come to me with all of your problems for fantasy related, obviously. Any questions, start, sit, waiver wire pickups, leave them in the comments. So today we're going to start off with quarterbacks, start and sit. We're going to work down the tiers. We're going to go tier 1, tier 2, and then tier 3 quarterback. So obviously tier 1 is going to start with Mahomes. Mahomes is facing the Cowboys coming up. The horrible defense the Cowboys have. So I think Mahomes is going to put up at least 2 passing touchdowns. Maybe 3 because the Cowboys have a great offense. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. You should definitely start Mahomes. I don't know what league he is in. And then Josh Allen, obviously, must-win game for the Bills. They're facing the Steelers. If they lose, it looks like they're going to be kicked out of the playoffs. So we're looking at a Josh Allen 30 points for fantasy is what I'm thinking against the Steelers. We all know about tier 1 quarterbacks. We don't need to do that. Let's drop down to the tier 2. We're talking Drake May, Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield. Joe Burrow's coming back off a long-time injury. That team is they're trying to fight their way into the wild card, which is going to be pretty hard for them, especially with their next opponent, the Ravens, which are on a 5-game winning streak. They're on a heater, and the Bengals have 0 defense. So I do think that Joe Burrow will put up a lot of fantasy points. I think he's going to be a great starter this week, even coming off an injury. We know that's a clear start. So let's just drop down to tier 3 already. So we're talking Jacoby Brissett, Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams, Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston subbing in for Jackson Dart. I think Jameis Winston is going to have a great week against the Patriots, even though the Josh Allen struggled against them. I think Jameis Winston always has that way. He goes in his bag. He pulls out his bag. He always finds a way to score touchdowns. He might throw an interception or 2, but his touchdowns and yards will outweigh that. So I think he will have at least a 24-point fantasy week. So I think he's looking good for a start. Caleb Williams has been a start for most of the season, but I'm thinking he's a sit this week against the Eagles. The Eagles haven't had many high-scoring games, especially with that defensive line. Even though they just lost to the Cowboys, I think that's going to be a low-scoring game, so I do not recommend the start of Caleb Williams this week. And then that goes the same for Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones will have a tough time against that Texans defense. The Texans defense are holding everyone. I wouldn't say they're getting too many wins, but they are holding quarterbacks to a small fantasy degree. I don't think many quarterbacks have scored over 20 fantasy points while facing the Texans. And then we're going to move over to Trevor Lawrence, who faces the Titans, which are the worst team in the league. So I think that Trevor Lawrence will ball out, especially with Parker Washington on the rise. Parker Washington is a young receiver who has been putting up numbers recently in fantasy. So I think that they will have a great connection over that game. Alrighty. And then let's move on to the running backs. Running backs are, you live or die by the running back. You get a good one, you're success. Jahmyr Gibbs. Oh my Lord. Jahmyr Gibbs with a 56-point fantasy week against the Giants. Now, that's not too impressive against the Giants, but 56 points is something that many people do not achieve in the fantasy world. Gibbs is always a start. I'm not going to talk about tier 1 because we know who to start and not who to start. So RJ Harvey, sit. I gotta say it. RJ Harvey's looking like a sit. He's obviously a tier 3 running back, and I expected much more out of him this season, which was my fault. But he has not been producing, even with J.K. Dobbins out. He hasn't been doing too much. And I want to move over to Quinshad Judkins. Judkins is a good running back in a bad situation. This guy can put up 25 points. He can put up 3 touchdowns. He can do it all. He can take all the yards, but he's sucked on the worst offense in the league. This is a guy you don't want to trade for. You want to trade him away. We obviously have to start him because he can put up that 25 fantasy points like we were talking about. but he's risky. He's more of a flex than a running back